Now that the Super Bowl is out of the way, sports fans can start preparing for the next big sport, racing. That's right. Get ready and start your engines. The NASCAR season will be in full swing on Sunday, and another motorsports season is right around the corner. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Penn State Sports Night. I'm Josh Bartosik, joined by Chris Machado and Ethan Ellis, and we are here to discuss all things motorsport. So starting with NASCAR, the Clash of the Coliseum just ended a little while ago. Martin Truex Jr. was the winner in that, but Chris, I'll start with you. What were your overall thoughts on that race as a whole?
Well, there's not much you can do with a quarter-mile track. I feel like Bristol is definitely the better short track here, but nonetheless, a great race, a great way for preseason. None of these standings matter towards the season. And, well, congratulations to Martin Truex Jr., but what really shocked me in this race was Bubba Wallace. He had a pretty good season in the 23 DoorDash Toyota Camry, and there's a reason that I chose this graphic. Bubba Wallace was having a fantastic race, led 40 laps, looked like the clear winner about halfway through until this turn took place. And the reason for this graphic is because of that man, Austin Dillon. If you're a fan of Bubba Wallace, on this exact turn, you're going to say that Austin Dillon dumped Bubba Wallace by not hitting his brakes. But if you're not a fan of Bubba Wallace, you're going to say incidental contact. Either way, Bubba Wallace had a great race, and I'm looking forward to what he's going to do this season.
Yeah, overall, I thought the race was interesting, to say the least. I think that this race is slowly evolving to show that this really isn't a track that's suited for NASCAR. It's way too small, and the only way we really saw passing was by drivers getting spun out or thrown into the wall. So I don't think that this is a track that we might see on the schedule in the future just because of how small it is and how compact the cars are. It really affects the racing. But one driver I looked at from this race was Kyle Busch, with a new team this year in RCR Racing. And everyone is definitely curious to see how he's going to do with this new team. And I was quite impressed with how he finished in the Clash. We saw him have a spin early, but overall, he came back to finish third. And I thought this was an impressive showing by the driver of the number 8 car. And really, it bodes well for his upcoming races at tracks like Martinsville or Bristol. And we've seen him dominate at both those tracks in the past. So really excited to see where he goes in the future with this team.
I mean, both Kyle Busch and Bubba Wallace are two of the best NASCAR drivers as of now. And you mentioned how the Coliseum itself just doesn't seem very suited for NASCAR racing. But we're going to move on to a track that is going to be suited for NASCAR racing for a long time and has been one of the most decorated races of all time, the Daytona 500. It's this coming weekend, the official start of the NASCAR season. Ethan, I'll throw it to you first. Who do you think is going to take the cake in the Daytona? What are you looking forward to in this race?
Yeah, so I've got Denny Hamlin winning this race, and he's won it before, and we've seen him dominate both here and at Talladega, the two big restrictor plate tracks for a while in NASCAR. He's shown that over this past seasons, he's one of the best drivers in NASCAR, and I don't see that dominance stopping anytime soon. But really what I'm looking for is this to just be a typical restrictor plate race. We've seen in the past years, it's usually a pretty intense and aggressive first stage, which usually winds up triggering a big accident. Cars running single file for most of the second stage, and then we see the last 20 laps or so get really intense with racing. So that's what I'm really looking for here. I think strategy is going to be a huge factor in this race. Who you pit with is going to really determine the outcome in this race. So it's going to be a fun race to watch, and I think the fans are ready for it.
Gentlemen, there's a reason that they call this the Great American Race. And Ethan, you said it best with strategy. I'm really excited to see when guys are going to pit, when they get gas, when to change tires, and especially on a yellow caution flag, when you pit and try to get in front of that safety car so you don't get a lap behind. So in this race, I am going to look for Joey Logano, your 2022 NASCAR Cup Series champion, to want to come out hot once again. But for me, it's Eric Almirola. And in my opinion, the reason he's my pick is because in the Busch Light Clash at the LA Coliseum, in my opinion, he had the fastest car on the track. This Smithfield Ford Mustang, insanely fast this year, especially with the new generation of NASCAR that they're doing now with the stock cars. And yeah, if it wasn't for all of the bumps and bruises he took in LA, I definitely think he would have won the race. But because of all the hits he took and spun out, he finished 18th, but I definitely think he's taken that Ford Mustang to victory lane.
I mean, it's sure to be an exciting weekend of racing. We'll have to see if he can get a full a full race in. I mean, all the bumps and bruises, it's tough. And we talk about how just that track just wasn't really suited for the new style and the typical style of NASCAR racing. But we're going to move on from just left turns. And yes, I know that both NASCAR has left and right turns, but just for the sake of my joke, please. Left and right turns across borders in Formula One. That season right around the corner. A lot of teams have been showing their new liveries. Winter testing is just a few weeks down the road. So first of all, I'm going to ask you guys, Chris, I'll start with you. What's the favorite livery you've seen so far? We've still got a couple more to get released. Ferrari, one of those, Mercedes as well. And then which team or which driver or team, either one, do you think is taking home that world championship?
Well, just before me and you went into class today, exactly at 2:30 p.m., the Aston Martin livery was announced to the world. And my God, is this thing menacing. To me, Aston Martin calls this their British racing green, and it's the only color Aston Martin ever needs to use on any car that they produce, in my opinion. On top of the black, it looks absolutely beautiful, and just that yellow trim finishes off an already menacing and mean look. Now, to me, if you put too many sponsorships on a car like McLaren, I know that you are an avid McLaren fan, but to me, that livery is just a bit too ad heavy. This, to me, is perfectly done. I love the carbon fiber spoilers in the front and the back. Aston Martin's my pick.
Yeah, and that Aston Martin livery is beautiful, and we've seen them come out with some really good liveries ever since Aston Martin took over that team. But for me, I'm looking at the new Alfa Romeo scheme. We've seen in the past years, it's usually been red with white. This year, completely different, red with black, and I think it just stands out and is beautiful. I think this really works for Alfa Romeo. The red and black combination go together really well. And it's going to be interesting to see almost how much this compares to a livery like Ferrari's, which we haven't seen yet. So that'll be interesting to see. But for world champion, I've got to take Max Verstappen, and there's really no beating him. I mean, he's easily the most talented driver in the field so far. You could make the argument that maybe Lewis Hamilton, maybe Charles Leclerc comes close to him, but I think personally Lewis Hamilton is past his prime. And Charles Leclerc, he drives for Ferrari, who we've seen have some equipment malfunctions in the past couple of seasons. So I think it's going to be Max Verstappen, Red Bull's year once again. And
Ethan, I'm going to have to totally agree with you there. You even told me that off camera earlier today that you think Lewis Hamilton is past his prime. And honestly, with the past years that Max Verstappen has put up, I don't know how you bet against the guy.
I mean, it really is tough, right? I mean, this guy, especially this past season, he looked like, there were times where he was like 3 whole laps ahead of the other competitors. It got really tough at times for it to even seem like anyone came close. Obviously, if Mercedes can get a better car than they did last year, we'll have to see if they put up another fight. But for right now, it's Max Verstappen's race to lose. But I want to talk just slightly about that, not the Aston Martin car, the Williams car was really, really something. I mean, that light blue with the navy blue was overall an incredible car. Now, granted, there's not going to be a whole lot of drivers seeing that car unless they're going to be looking in their rearview mirror because the Williams, don't have a lot of sponsors, don't have a lot of money. But maybe one day that car will be sitting on the podium. But that's pretty much for now. It's just going to be sitting in the back of the pack.
And one thing that really excited me about the Williams team launch was that they said they were going to partner with Gulf, who has had probably the most legendary livery in all of motorsports across all series. And I'm really excited to see what this looks like. We saw them do a one-off scheme with McLaren at Monaco a few years ago, so I'm really excited to see where they go with Williams with this.
We'll have to see. I think there's a lot of exciting things in the future for all these liveries. From 500 miles in Daytona Beach to 308 kilometers in Bahrain, the motorsport season is right around the corner, and fans across the globe are anticipating the sound of engines revving and the smell of burnt rubber. For Chris Machado and Ethan Ellis, I'm Josh Bartosik, and we will continue to bring you motorsport coverage all season long. Thank you for tuning into this edition of Penn State Sports Night, and have a great rest of your night.
Hey everybody, thank you for tuning into this edition of Penn State Sports Night. We hope you liked that segment.
And we're sure there's other Penn State Sports Night segments that you are going to love as well. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content.
And check us out on social media for updates and behind-the-scenes clips and pics. Follow us on Twitter at PSSN TV and on Instagram at PSU Sports Night to keep up with all the action.
For all of us here at the Belisari Media Center, we are
Penn State Sports Night.